everyone who wants to study in the US for higher education. So higher education is bachelor's, master's, or PhD, S1, S2, and S3. All of our information are unbiased, and all of our services is also free of charge. I know it sounds too good to be true. A lot of people, wondered, like, how is it possible that we provide all this information, all these services for you guys, and it's for free? And so, yeah, well, it's possible because the goal here is to actually help you study in the US, right? So in Indonesia, of course, not only in America, but we actually have 8 centers total for the whole country with 10 advisors. So I'm going to break down here. In Jakarta, we have 2 at the U.S. Embassy, and then we also have, of course, in America. At the embassy, we have David and Iqbal. And then we have 2 in Surabaya, one at the U.S. Consulate General with Husky, and then we also have at Unair with Ambar. And then we have one in Medan, also similar with Surabaya. It's in the U.S. Consulate Medan with Jeffrey. And then we have one in Malang at Universitas Muhammadiyah with Zaki. And then we have one in Makassar at Universitas Fajar dengan Cendani. And then last but not least, we have one in Banda Aceh at UIN Araniri with Lilis. So we are a very nice people, basically, with EducationUSA to help you, right? So if there is no EducationUSA where you live, don't worry, because we basically cover the whole country. Technically, you can pick the closest to from where you live, but now that you're watching EducationUSA America for the first time, and then you feel like, you know what? I feel like I want to get to know Santika and Fina. I want to ask a lot of questions. Why not contact us, right? So our services, we provide you with 5 steps. So we start with step 1, research your options. It's a very basic step. We're going to talk a lot about some of your options if you want to study at a public university or like location wise, or maybe you're still trying to figure out some of the majors, what to pick and all that stuff. We're going to talk a lot in step 1. I'm going to try to understand better of your overall profile before we moving on to the next step. And then once we're done with step 1, we can move on to step 2, which is finance your studies, because of course that's equally important, right? Because studying in the US can cost quite a lot, and so maybe a lot of us are wondering, is there any scholarship available, or maybe you already have a scholarship, meaning that you're pretty much ready to move on to step 3. So once we pretty much know the funding situation here, or maybe you're going to self-funding, or maybe looking for partial funding and all that, we can move on to step 3, which is completing your application. And this is when things are getting a bit more technical, right? Because we're going to do a lot of things here, and it's pretty much where I'm really coming in a lot as an advisor. So the one service that is very popular here in EducationUSA America, now that a lot of people heard about it, is about essay review. The good news is we're going to have that session sometimes next month. So if you want to know more about essay writing, we're going to cover that. But of course, not only about essay writing, we also do, we can actually take a look at your CV as well. And maybe you want to know what the past advisees have been doing in terms of preparing for TOEFL or IELTS or GRE or GMAT, or if you want to study bachelor's degree, probably SAT or ACT. So again, there are a lot of things going on in step 3. And then after that, everything is going well, you're pretty much going to submit your application. And then what happens is you're going to wait for a couple of weeks or a couple of months to hear back from the universities. And pretty much around these times is the time when Santika and we are waiting to hear back from a lot of our advisees that we've been working together for the past 6 to 1 year. because they are already submitting their application, and then they are going to let us know if they got accepted. In fact, we have about almost 60 people now already told us that they got accepted, and we are so very excited about that. And I'm pretty sure there are actually more. So yeah, and after that, we can move on to step 4, which is applying for your student visa. We are not going to apply the visa for you guys, but we're giving you the guidelines, the step by step of applying for a student visa. And there are actually a lot of questions around this step as well. For example, we can cover it tonight if you also want to know more about it. For example, what is the difference between F1 and J1? Because some of the universities actually allow you to pick either one, and so those are U.S. student visa, but there are some differences, and we can actually talk more about that. So these are the kind of information that we give you on step 4. And then of course after that you apply for your visa, or maybe you're still waiting to apply for your visa. But usually around May or June we have our annual event called PDO, pre-departure orientation. So this is basically the events that I really really look forward to, but I can't really say for sure that we're going to have one this year because of the current condition. We want to see first, probably, on of how many of you guys who already get accepted who will depart, or maybe who will take online classes for the fall semester. Because at the moment, the majority of our advisees who already received a LOA, letter of acceptance, a lot of you guys, decide to, or maybe still deciding to actually defer it to the following year. And of course, we can talk more about deferral. Probably you don't know what does that mean, right? So yeah, so that's basically the 5 steps that we provide for you guys. So you can see here, we really help you. We really assist you every step of the way. And so don't you worry if you have, a very basic question and you're not sure, should I ask that question? But yeah, no, go ahead and ask as many questions as possible. All right. So, well, it's basically, a little picture of the animation version of myself and Santika. But here we leave our email here. If you have, like a very specific question, and basically you want to pick only one advisor so that, it doesn't get confused between Santika and I. Our advising hours is basically every day, Sunday to Saturday. We start from 1 until 9 p.m. And of course, now that we're going digital, we are available via Zoom. I believe Santika has mentioned that earlier, but here I leave it again, our Zoom ID to 761243996. Our advising system is first come first served, so you don't have to email us, or leave us a message saying that, hey Fina, can I see you on, let's say, tomorrow at 7:30. Technically, of course, you are more than welcome to come in, but it's a first come first served basis. So as long as there is no advising session going on, you guys, you can talk, right? But if there is an advising session going on, I will leave you a chat, a message via Zoom, letting you know that, hey, we have an advising session going on. Feel free to wait, or maybe you want to leave and then coming in again, all right? Or you can actually email us first if you don't feel like you want to go to Zoom right away, or email Santika or I. You can just email us first, and then maybe you want to give us a little bit of information about yourself, or maybe some basic questions. This is I want to show you a glimpse of our upcoming events. We actually pretty much all set for the month of June, so I'm very very excited. So the first one, you definitely want to come to this, especially you guys who wants to study master's degree or even PhD, because on June 5th we are going to have 2 Fulbright alumni, Edward Sutanto and Yahaskil Tumewu, and we're going to talk a lot about Fulbright scholarship, because they are a Fulbright alumni. All right. So it's going to be at 7. So tonight we're having it at 7:30, but starting in June we're going to pretty much start around 7. And then on June 11, I'm going to give a presentation again on everything about CVs, resume, and the importance of letters of recommendation. This is part of our monthly events as well. I had this couple of weeks ago, and so I'm going to have that again in June, just in case you wanna, like refresh your memory or something like that. All right. And then the week after, I look forward to this because this is basically the exact event that I would deliver when I was in America. And you can see here the time is a bit long, so it starts from 6:30 to 8:30 because I want to say the presentation is a bit long too, because there are actually a lot of information that I want to share with you guys here. I'm going to use a presentation slide here, just like what I did at America. So, we're going to take a look at how the essays are really important for US universities and how are they different than other countries, how to start, what is the universities actually really looking for in the essay. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. All right. So, and then the day after that, again, we're going to have another AMA. So, hopefully, you can attend the event during June, and then we kind of like somewhat close it with something with AMA. So, if there are some questions that is not being answered yet, probably you want to join this event as well. Okay. And if you want to know our upcoming events, so basically the 4 events that I just showed you is already up on America's website. And some of them already have the registration link for Zoom. So feel free to register for that event. But if you want to know our upcoming events, we are basically available at the official EducationUSA website, educationusa.state.gov, or you can simply go to America's website. All right, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to stop sharing. And how are we doing, Santika? Are we doing great now so far?
Yeah, we have lots of questions, and
great.
Some are actually, pretty detailed question with, they are telling us their plan and their background for a bit, and then they go for the questions. So I think we have really good questions tonight, and it's up to you if you want to, dive into the topic first or go straight for the Q&A. Just let me know.
I have a feeling that there might be a lot of other questions coming in, and
Right.
with time limitation, we maybe want to just dive into the questions. So what we're going to do here, guys, I'm going to, Santika and I are going to read some of the questions, and so we're not going to read it per topic. So it's going to be pretty much like all over the places, but hopefully these are also the questions that you really, really want to ask, right? So Santika, before we start, how about we do some polling?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about it. Okay, so I will launch the polling right now. And this is just for fun.
This is just for fun, guys. There is no right or wrong answer. We basically just want to get to know you a little bit better. So for those of you who are, I can see it. Right. So for those of you who are watching us not in Zoom, probably you guys are wondering what is this, or maybe you can't really see it. So basically it's a polling. We are basically, ask questions like, what level of degrees do you want to study in the US? Or when do you plan to start your study? Or where do you watch this event from? Unfortunately, we can't launch this poll from 2 other platforms, only in Zoom, but don't you guys worry if you guys are watching this from other platforms. It's basically we just, want to get a glimpse of people who are watching us here in Zoom. I really like question number 3. Where are you currently watching this event from? This is definitely something that I've never thought before in America because, of course, we are expecting people to come in person to America. So that our audience are pretty much people who can come to America. Although our events are live stream already when we were in America, but I never really thought about asking where are you guys watching this from. So I would love to know. Like a couple of events, a couple of like last week, I think we had a number of people from the Eastern Indonesia, and we were actually really surprised knowing that. And so hopefully we can actually see some as well. And okay, I'm going to give you a little bit more time here. All right, 2 minutes is up. So how about we end the poll, Santika?
Okay, it's end, and I'm going to share the results.
Yay.
There you go.
All right. Oh, we actually this is what we've been seeing so far. The majority of you guys wanting to study master's degree, but well, I'm actually not surprised. Even back in America, the majority of our advisees are actually want to study master's degree. We are trying so hard to let people actually study PhD more in the US, and it's really nice to see there are some here, and a little bit, a few number of you guys who want to study bachelor's degree. Great. And okay, the majority of you guys want to study fall 2021, or maybe even like an even number percentage of you guys want to study fall 2022, sorry, or even like later term, or maybe you're not sure yet. Why not? Maybe you're here just to basically want to know a little bit more about studying in the US. And look at that here. Where are you currently watching this event from? 66% of you guys are from the Jabodetabek area. Very exciting to see that. Good number of you guys from outside Jabodetabek. Nice. But we are a bit sepi here for dari Sumatera, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and East Indonesia. We don't actually have anybody from there, but we got actually 2 from outside Indonesia. That's really interesting. If you wanna, like say hi in chat box, and just tell us where are you guys actually watching this from. That would be great.
So,
and yeah.
Yeah, actually, we got one in the chat box saying that she's she's currently in Singapore. That's very
nice. Hello from Singapore.
Yeah. So one
and
more
last but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and last but not least, have you have any advising session before? And 28% of you guys said you have, but the majority of you guys have not. So after this event, why don't you guys joining Zoom tomorrow and the next day and the next day to meet Santika and I, right? Okay, so we can stop the polling and then we can just dive into what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the questions. We got a lot of.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions tonight. So do you want me to read it for you, Fina? Will that be easier for you?
I can take a look at the questions here as well. So I'm looking at a list of the question. Oh my god, that's a lot. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm just gonna start, right? So we got one from Sheeny Vis. She has emailed us actually the questions. So the first one is how do we? So assuming that Sheeny, I think Sheeny wants to study S1. So the question is, how do we find and get a good financial aid or scholarship for international students? And do we need to apply to the university first and get accepted? So when we talk about scholarships specifically for undergraduate degree for international students, unfortunately, like usually when people are looking for a full ride scholarship, they are looking for the one that is being given by or being provided by the government. Unfortunately, and with government scholarship, the ones that we usually mention is Fulbright and LPDP. But unfortunately, those are only for master's degree and PhD. So untuk S1, basically we want to kind of like rely on the scholarship being provided by the university. So what you can do here, you can definitely go to the website, to the university website. They most of the time always have this one section called financial aid, and then you want to really read that through. Sometimes the university will have a scholarship specifically for international student. Sometimes they don't really mention it, so that means, well, technically you can also apply. but sometimes they also mention that this scholarship is only available for a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, right? So you really want to read the information from the university's website. That one way. The other one is you can go to a website, which Santika, if you can help me typing it down in chat box, it's a website called U.S. Funding Funding U.S. Study. Okay, I need to fundingusstudy.org. Sorry, I kind of like mixed that. Fundingusstudy.org. Basically, it's a database of all the scholarships from the universities that are available for international students. So you can check that. And then whether or not you need to apply, whether or not you apply to the university first and get accepted, it really depends. A lot of people, they apply to the university first, they get accepted. Sometimes the university will give you some kind of like a scholarship, maybe not that much, maybe partial, or maybe they don't give you any scholarship at all. But then if you maintain some good GPA, for example, for the first semester or two, maybe you can apply for a scholarship. So it really depends on the university. um, Tips for writing a good essay, I want to kind of like save this for last, because I tend to really talk too long in this area. So just in case we have some time for me to talk about essay, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to save that first. Average living cost and total cost for studying in the US. It's a really hard to answer, because really though, for example, like if you, okay, I spent about 2 years studying in Washington State, and I didn't live in the downtown area, downtown Seattle. It's about like 40 minutes from downtown Seattle, and the living cost is just like the difference is just crazy, right? So average living cost, anything that is downtown or anything that is like in a big city, obviously it will cost a lot. I want to say probably nowadays, um, the apartment, probably you want to have about really a minimum of $1,000 a month. Um, but then if you live outside the city area, that can go as low as, I don't know, like 600, 700. So it really depends. And cost for studying in the US is definitely depends also. Obviously, private universities will cost definitely like way more than public university. But yeah, there is no right answer for this, but I want to say like it starts, if you're talking about a large public universities for S1, probably the number we are starting the starting point is maybe about $25,000 a year for tuition alone. So that's for 2 semesters. So that's just to give you an idea. About $25,000 compared to private universities, or even like maybe highly selective universities. That one can go all the way to 60,000 US dollar a year for tuition alone. All right, so I hope that answers, and I'm gonna give it to Santika to answer the other questions.
Right. So still from Shini through the email. So her other question is, how long can we stay to work in US after study? So there's this thing called OPT, optional practical training. It's basically kind of like a license that allows you to find job in US after you earn any degree. So that means your AA degree or bachelor or master or PhD degree. Any degree that you got in United States are eligible for you to apply for this OPT. So once you get this OPT, you can find job, and if you get the job, you can work up to a year for non-STEM major program. But for STEM, you can apply for like an extension of 24 months, and it's subject to approval. And STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if you are interested to, look for this opportunity, you have to be very keen on your timeline. So you can apply for this OPT before you actually graduate, because then if after you graduate, you only have like 3 months before your student visa go expired and you have to come back to Indonesia. So that's a bit too late for you to apply the OPT. So you have to be very keen on your timeline when you're there. And the last question from Shini is, can we work while studying as an undergraduate or freshman? So I got like other questions similar to this. So I hope you're listening as well. I think Muhammad asked this. So, working in US as a student under your student visa status of F1 is allowed as long as it is in campus and it is part time in your campus. So, outside of campus, that's a no. And the limit is kind of like 20 hours per week. If it exceeds that, I don't think you are allowed to. And so the answer to can we work while studying as an undergraduate or freshman is yes, as long as you get the in campus job, and they will help you, get your kind of like the identification number for the tax and everything that allows you to work in the campus. So you don't have to worry as long as you get the job. So you have to find one that allows the international student to work for. Okay, I hope that answers your question, and I'll give it back to Fina for the next question.
All right. So yeah. So what are we going to do with all these questions is Santika will take some of her part, and I'm gonna take take some questions as well. So we're going to gonna back and forth. Okay. So the next question is, we also received this in the email from Viri Cristianto. Hopefully you are watching this session. The first question is actually really interesting, and I really thank you to ask the questions in advance, because otherwise I'm not going to know the answer. So the first question is, what is the most interesting question you have ever answered in the Q&A section? And what was your answer? When I read this a couple of hours ago before the events, I was really spent a good 1 minute to really think the most interesting question that I've received. I want to say there are actually a couple. And now with the current situation, right? So like I mentioned earlier, we have about almost 60 students now already get an LOA or letters of acceptance for fall 2020, this coming fall. But a lot of people are concerned about with the current situation. So I found that the questions that they ask, which about they are asking my opinion about whether they should just take online classes and so they can start fall 2020, or some of the universities also allow them to defer to next year. But then a lot of the advisees are not sure if they want to wait for another year before studying in the US. I found that this question is actually really interesting, like whether or not you just take the classes online or be in person. So my answer to that is, and the beauty of all this is because Santika and we can also speak from our experience. So we're not just like giving an answer, things that you want to hear about, but we can actually talk from experience. And so based on my experience, you really do not want to study in the US just so that you get a degree. It's like technically more than that. It's basically more than that, right? So I'm not a big fan of taking online classes. Although back in the days when I like a long time ago when I studied in the US, I took some online classes, and back then the online system is already good. So I can totally imagine that today is even better. So I would say that it's totally okay if you also want to take some online classes. But if you are not in a hurry to, really be in the US, I would definitely suggest you to defer, especially if the university allows it. And especially if you guys are, you guys want to study bachelor's degree, because you're going to spend 4 years in the US, and really it's going to be pretty much like your second home. And you really want to absorb everything, like the experience, studying and living in the US, and you don't want to miss that by taking online classes from here, from Indonesia. I can't really say much for those of you who want to study masters because, well, technically, the length of the program is start from 9 months to 2 years. So maybe you won't have so much time to really feel like live in the US. But yeah, I mean, if you ask me, I would definitely say take in-person um, classes. And I think that would be, the most interesting question at the moment. So hopefully that really helps. And then the next question from Viri as well is asking about for the CV essay, the counseling sessions, essay reviews. Are our data and privacy stay within the counseling session, or will you save the data for other purposes? This is a really great question. The answer is yes. It's going to be private, so you don't have to worry that your draft will end up at someone else's computer. In the past, we did have some advisees asking us if they can take a look at our uh, of the other advisees essay, and we always check with that person first if they are comfortable in sharing that. But if not, then we're not sharing that. So yeah, don't you worry. And the whole session is like when we do Zoom, I'm not recording the session. So technically, when we're done, we're done. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. And then the third one is not question, but more like an advice. Do you have posters or maybe infographic I'm guessing for the do's and don'ts for making essay and CV for US university application in Adamerica's website? No, we don't, but it's actually a really good advice. So thank you for that. We're going to discuss this internally, and maybe we can actually have that. All right. I know we did have, just like a Instagram post where we have some kind of infographic if you scroll it, and then some kind of, like short information about like what makes essays important. But we don't really have that like on our website. But yeah, we can definitely think about that. So thank you. Yep. I'm going to give you back to Santika again.
Hey. So yeah, the chat box is quite crowded, and we have a very good question, and I know you will love it if you read it. The last question from in, but we'll go through it. So now I'm going to answer a question, a partial question from Natasha Fila from email as well. So she have three questions. I'm going to answer one and give Fina two. The first question she have is, I was wondering whether a CV or resume required for an art school is similar with the standard of US CV or resume commonly. The application only says that we have to include the experience relevant to the program. So I never see a different standard on art schools for the CV and the resume. What I know for art school is they require you to have a portfolio, and I think that's kind of like the CV for art people. So yeah, I think the CV or resume is a bit the same with other university and program, regardless of it's art school or not. And on top of that, it's your portfolio or whatever program that you want to sign up for. So let's say if you are doing theater or dancing, they will ask you maybe a recording of your, dancing or your drama when you are performing. So it's a different thing that they will require for art school on top of your CV or the resume. But do follow the guidelines for US CV or resume, and I will go into deeper on that after we are in other questions for that, because there are other questions on that as well. So US CV and resume is a bit different from Indonesian version. In a way, you don't put your pictures, you don't put your biodata, your religion, your gender, a lot of things that you don't have to put in there. And yeah, I think I'll answer more on that later on, but that's just like the main difference. You can just Google it. If you need more help, contact us or go for one-on-one advising with Fina or me. Okay, I'll give it back to Fina for the next question.
All right. So still from Natasha, which hi Natasha. I remember you went to America before, and I still remember you actually want to study LLM. But then it's really amazing now that hearing that you actually want to um, study art. Um, the question from you is: there are master's program which requires us to submit a writing sample of 1,500 to 3,000 words, which reflect our critical thinking and analysis. I was wondering if you have any advice on what kind of writing samples that can be included, or were there any past advisees experience which had to deal with this matter and how they overcome it. So, a writing sample, first of all, it's not the regular essay, the one that a lot of people actually come to us for a review. So a writing sample, it can be something that if you've published an article before, or if you published a journal, or the easiest one probably, since kita S1 di Indonesia itu kan ada thesis, right? That can, if your thesis is actually in English, that can kind of you can actually use that as a writing sample. But yeah, we don't actually, I actually don't have that many advisees where the universities required writing sample, but I did know some of them in the past. So for example, I know this particular one advisee, but she is actually kind of like a journalist as well. So she published some articles online. So she used that as a writing sample. So if you don't have a writing sample yet, I think that's going to be very tricky. But then again, it's not like all programs will ask these questions, require you to submit writing sample. I would actually will find it surprised if you want to study art and then the university actually ask for a writing sample. But yeah, so that's the easiest answer for you for now. So yeah, if you have your thesis in English, that can technically, can be considered a writing sample. Or maybe if you have like a, publishing an article in the past, that can also be considered, writing sample. The next question from Natasha is: are there any advice regarding applying for a master's program in an art school, such as drama, art, arts and public policy, or music in general and specifically? I want to say this is like a really good time for you guys to, if you want to study master's degree in art. Hopefully LPDP will have that again. So we've seen that about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they open applicants who want to study art, and then the following year they deleted that particular major, and then they had it again last year. So in fact, I think I had two specific LPDP awardees who are applying for an art program. So I think, and hopefully, we don't know if LPDP is going to open this year, but hopefully in the future when they are, they will also accept art applicants as well. But are there any advice? I want to say, I think like similar to what Santika mentioned earlier, when you want to study art, the university will look heavily on your portfolio. Yes, they will require some essay as well, and you definitely want to do really good in there. But definitely no GRE, I would say. I've never heard any universities ask for GRE for an art program. But yeah, I wouldn't say portfolio. An essay for sure. And of course, the English standardized test. That's something that you can't really play around with the score. So if the university exactly asks for a particular score for TOEFL or IELTS, then that's definitely the score that you want to aim for. So hopefully that's answered your question. Let's move on here. We got a question from Banu Chowdhury from Zoom as well. Hi, Banu. Thanks so much for the question. Okay, 4 questions actually here. So I'm going to try to answer it real quick. By when fall admission starts for international students? So fall semester is the most common academic year for universities in the US, and that will start around August or September, depending on the university. It can start as, like early August or late August, or maybe even early September, right? Usually by when we should have our GRE score ready with us. Well, I mean, whenever you're ready to submit your application. So, so for example, if you want to study for fall 2021, what you want to do is list the universities that you want to apply, and pay attention to the deadline, and then take the average of if 4 universities that you want to apply have their deadline around November, December of this year. So you may want to have your GRE ready, maybe a month or maybe 2 months before that. Especially if you are not sure if you're going to have a really strong GRE score, and then you want to have some time to retake the test. All right. But then technically, since GRE will last for 5 years, if you are pretty confident with your math and your English for the verbal section, and you want to take it now, I don't see why not. But we've seen in the past that there are a couple of advisees where they don't feel confident with the score that they have, and so they retake it. They retook the test. I got a couple of advisees where they would take 4 times of GRE tests. I don't really recommend that because it's costly, and we don't really see that a big of a difference when you take 4 times. Sometimes the score just will stay. But yeah, technically you can take more than once for sure. What is the timeline to target for working on essays? Now. The answer is now. Even if you have, the universities that you want to apply have the deadline not until, I don't know, like April 2021, really work on it now. Unless you are a writer, where you don't really have an issue in writing in English, then yeah, you definitely want to do it now. And then again, that's definitely something that we can discuss. And in fact, this week I might be really busy on Zoom, because I want to have, I think, about 5 people already emailed me, and they want to set a session for essay review. And I love that because they already start working on it, even though their deadline is not until like next year. So if you have one too, feel free to contact me. Feel free to contact Santika, and we can work on it together. Last question is, what is the GRE score to target for Ivy League? It's a good question. So maybe I'm not just going to talk about Ivy League, but I put Ivy League as a category of highly selective universities, because a lot of us, tend to just, when it comes to applying to US, it's just Ivy League, right? But Ivy League is only 8 universities, guys, out of 4,000 universities in the US. University of Chicago, for example, that's considered a highly selective university as well. So the GRE score to target for highly selective universities is with the GRE quant or the math section, because here's the thing. When we as an Indonesian, where English is not our first language, we will find the GRE verbal very, very challenging. And so, practically, me being an advisor for the past 4 or 5 years, I kind of see an average of us Indonesians when it comes to GRE verbal. It's actually not that high. So we're talking about 150 out of 170, right? So it's actually not that high. However, the tips here is you want to kind of really do very well in the GRE quant. So if you want to go for an Ivy League, you definitely want to aim 165 and above. 165 out of 170. I know it sounds crazy, just 5 points below the full score, but they called highly selective universities for a reason, right? And even sometimes they will pay attention to the GRE verbal as well. I would definitely see in the past where the university basically, They give their reason why one advisee didn't get accepted, and they said, oh, because we see that your GRE verbal is too low. So if you can actually get 155 at least on your GRE verbal, you're doing great. 150 for a highly selective university, I have not seen one. So that's the score. Hopefully that helps. If you want me to clarify something, let me know. And so I'm going to give you back to Santika again.
All right. So thank you, Fina, for the very detailed answer. I hope that really helps Banu to plan his study or her study. So next question is from Lala in Zoom. Unfortunately, I just checked a few minutes ago. She's not here anymore. So I'm going to be brief. And hopefully if you don't get your answer from here, you can email us again. So which one is between these options will have a greater opportunity to get a Fulbright scholarship? A CV of an entrepreneur who was not very successful yet, or a CV of an employee in a great company. So unfortunately, we don't have a definite answer for this because basically Fulbright is under Aminef and they have their own committee, and we don't really, have a say for their selection. So what I can tell you is basically your CV, the success of your CV is not just determined by where you are working or like how do you define the success. I think that's a very important thing that you want to think about. And another thing is that is very very important for scholarship application and Fulbright, as they have mentioned, their essay is very important as well. So you don't want to focus too much in the CV and worrying if your CV is not successful enough or anything, but you forget to focus your application on the CV, on the essay aspect, because that's very important. I can say a good CV will consist of kind of like well balanced, person that you show in your CV and resume. That means you don't only work very hard in the company or in your business, but you also give contribution to the community or something that you do outside of your job, your full-time job. Maybe have something to do with the community or anything that's outside of profit. That will be a good additional in your CV or resume wherever you are applying to the scholarship for Fulbright or LPDP or any university. I think that will be a plus. So yeah, I don't want you to only look at your CV successfulness just based on whether it's better to have a successful business or work in a big company or anything like that. There is no certain formula for that. Okay. So I hope that helps answering your question. And next one, I'm going to pass it again to Fina for the next question.
Okay, so we have a question here from Jati Natakusuma from Zoom. Hopefully, you're still watching this. Basically, you want to ask about studying in the US for a vocational high school graduate. I'm not familiar with vocational high school graduate, but as long as you have a high school diploma, then you pretty much have a chance to study in the US for sure. You're asking how big is my chance to be a student on American university if I was a vocational high school graduate. I'm going to say that, yeah, as long as you have a high school diploma, then you're pretty much good to go. Are there any special requirement for vocational high school graduate? Again, I'm not really familiar with vocational high school graduate, but then again, just as long as this vocational high school graduate is similar with just like a regular high school, I want to say yeah. And considering I was a vocational graduate, and can competency certificates or certificates from companies portfolio will help? Yes and no. I mean, it really depends. I mean, the universities in the US, especially for a bachelor's degree level, they don't really require you to prove to them what you have, some kind of like a certificate or anything like that. They don't really ask that. Usually it's mostly on what you're going to deliver or what you're going to say on the essay, I want to say. All right. So yeah, hopefully that answered, or maybe if not, feel free to contact me personally and we can talk more about that. Okay, so Santika, yep, we got a note here that someone wants to turn their video on.
All right, so Aninda is actually watching us from Singapore, and she already turned on her video, and she have a question to ask Fina and me. So I think both of us can answer this quite freely. Okay, Aninda, what is your question?
Hi, Fina and Santika. Thank you. I have two questions. So I'm applying for doctorate program PhD for this year, and I've already set my dates for GRE and IELTS, but they were all canceled due to this pandemic. So I'm just wondering, how do you think this pandemic would impact the application process for this year? And I need to change my timeline. I think I need to adjust a couple of things. I don't know how to adjust it, actually, to be honest. Do you have any suggestion on that? How do you see this application process will be this year? And second, my question is that from all the cases that you've encountered, from all the advices that you've met before, especially for PhD students, PhD applicants, how many schools do they usually apply to? Do they apply to one school only, or do they apply to a couple of schools with the same department? And how many % is the successful rate for that? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll try to answer that question because I've actually worked with a number of PhD candidates, and I love what they're doing. I love, like, the whole process is very unique, I want to say. So the first question is you're asking about, like, with the current situation, how it will impact students who want to apply. Assuming that you want to apply for fall 2021, I want to say that I know that in Indonesia we get the TOEFL at home, right, Santika? And then we also heard.
So so I think when you go to ets.org, they depending on where you are, but where I am opening it in Indonesia, there is an option for the home test. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're very keen on your timeline and you need to go as soon as possible. But yeah, there is an option on that. Plus, for IELTS in Indonesia, they are actually rescheduling it, and they actually send email personally to people who already buy the test or register for the test. I don't know if you are registering it in Singapore, so you may have to check it again for the IELTS in Singapore or TOEFL in Singapore.
I did it in Jakarta, actually. I registered in Jakarta, and then I canceled it because of all these things. But I mean, with all this,
uncertainty.
Uncertainties. What would you suggest? Do you think that I could just apply for this year, or just postpone it to next year?
I will suggest you to kind of like look at 2021, but for the test itself, for the TOEFL and IELTS, I think both of them actually offer free rescheduling. So if you have difficulties on that, you can email me. I can give you the link on that. Okay. And yeah, Fina have things to add for that too.
Yeah, and in the chat box, we have Laksito Purnomo here, basically sharing IELTS and GRE will be asked a waiver to admission. You're able to contact the admission office. Thank you for sharing that, Laksito, and I can't agree more. There are actually more and more universities now because, again, with the uncertainty, they are somewhat concerned that there won't be a lot of people applying for fall 2021. So we see that some of the universities, I don't want to say making it easier, but they waive, like GRE. We actually see this a lot. They waive even SAT untuk yang S1 ya. So because they understand with this current situation, people kind of like wondering like, how can I take the test? I'm not sure about TOEFL or IELTS though, because that's something that I think the university will definitely still want to see it. But I want to say the universities is quite what do you call it?
Flexible, case to case.
Exactly, yeah, more flexible in the situation. So I think in this case, you definitely want to contact the university. So for example, I know personally about two or maybe even more, who already got accepted for PhD for fall 2020, right? One of them got to 4 universities. They got accepted to 4. The other one got 5, I think. So yeah, it's definitely very common for people to actually apply to, more than one university. And so they are asking these questions, right? They're asking me about, what am I going to do now with the current situation? And then I told them, contact the university, because some universities are being very flexible at the moment with the current situation, meaning that a lot of them actually allow the PhD candidates or incoming students to actually defer to fall 2021, while at the same time they also allow the students to actually enrolled in fall 2020 and then maybe take the classes online, and then maybe hoping that the situation will get better very soon, they can be in the US by springtime 2021. So it really depends, but I want to say that I don't know, I'm really hopeful that this current situation will end really soon. Hopefully by next year we are pretty much go back to normal situation. And so in that case, if you want to study for fall 2021, this is definitely like the perfect time for you to start. In fact, yeah, like right now we actually have a lot of advisees starting with their fall 2021 application process. And so with PhD, you definitely want to start contacting the professor. You don't have to, but then it's actually good if you can do that, and then maybe share about the kind of research that you want to do with your study. I had this session specifically on PhD, a PhD program in the US a couple of weeks ago. Feel free to watch that again. But yeah, I mean, if you are thinking for applying for fall 2021, let's schedule some time, either with Santika or I, and then we can actually talk more about the application process.
Yep, I agree, because it's a bit unique. Like Vina mentioned before, for PhD, it's a bit unique compared to master and the bachelor program. So yeah, we would love to talk to you one-on-one if you have more questions on that. Okay, thank you so much, Aninda. I hope you can join us again next time. And thank you so much for your time and turning on your video. So I think we will move to next question, and I think it's my part. It's from Richard Adiguna in Zoom. Is TOEFL preferred rather than IELTS in any US college application? So I'm going to give you kind of like the overall on this TOEFL and IELTS thing. So TOEFL is American English, TOEFL IBT is American English, and IELTS is British. So, it makes more sense if TOEFL IBT is 100% accepted by any US universities and colleges, while IELTS, not 100%, but a lot of universities actually these days accept both TOEFL IBT or IELTS. Some universities actually also accept like Duolingo test. If you guys ever heard of it, it's kind of like an app, but they also move to a higher level of standardized tests. So I would say it depends on the university. So what you want to do in the first step before you actually decide to take TOEFL or IELTS is finding out which program and university you want to apply to, and look at their requirements. If they say TOEFL or IELTS, then and all of the universities that you want to apply say TOEFL or IELTS, they give you the flexibility. Go ahead and research on which one is better for you, because every person is going to be different. Some people prefer TOEFL IBT because they're nervous to talk in front of the native speaker during the speaking section. Some people prefer IELTS and do better in IELTS because they cannot talk with the microphone in front of the computer. They don't know what to say. They prefer in person. So IELTS works better in that case. So, explore, give your time, research and explore, give yourself more time. And Fina and me always recommend, anyone who comes to us 1 or 2 years before you want to start studying in the US to start preparing. Okay, I hope that answers your question. And next one is going to be for Fina.
All right, time really flies. I think we have only about 10 minutes or so. We gotta do it really quickly here. So let's see. From Sam. Hi, my name is Sam. Here my question. Do you need AP tests? So this is a question for S1 ya. AP test is an advanced placement classes. If you want to apply for an Ivy Leagues, right? Do you need AP test? Or do you need GRE or GMAT? First of all, GRE and GMAT is only for master's degree, so you don't need GRE and GMAT. If you want to aim for highly selective universities like Ivy League, I think that would be great if you actually can take AP, because that AP classes will, and it's a lot of benefit as well that you can take from taking AP classes, because that AP classes, if you get good grades in it, that's going to go toward your credits when you are in college. So assuming that you're still maybe in grade 10 or maybe grade 11, yeah, if you can actually take some AP classes, or even maybe even some A-level courses. I mean, depending on what kind of high school curriculum that you have, this kind of curriculum, the one that like AP and A-level and stuff like that, they can actually go toward your credit. So yeah. Second, to apply for financial aid, you are required to fill in CSS profile. This is for financial aid. Is there someone or a group that I could ask to help me filling in Indonesia? Not that I've known of, and unfortunately, I'm not familiar either with CSS profile, because the paperwork is just insanely a lot to fill in to work on the paperwork. So, and unfortunately, I'm not really familiar with that, unfortunately. So I'm so sorry about that. And so, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. So I'm gonna give you back to Santika for the next question.
All right. So next question is from Darin in Zoom. Hi guys, my name is Darin. Hope there's room for another question. It's a bit similar with question already asked above. Currently exploring graduate school options. I saw lots of campuses now offer online master program to accommodate the physical restriction we are facing in current times. Can you share any comments regarding this new option? Anything at all? I'm especially curious about the application processes and the financial aid options, which as far as I've seen is quite limited compared to regular programs. Just thinking that you might have something to share on this topic. So yes, definitely, as Fina have mentioned before, these days, because the current situation, university give more options. That means the classes going online and everything. And of course, you can take online classes and program when you are in Indonesia, but I think it's going to be more challenging compared to if you are in US and taking the online class there. Why? Because of the time difference. That's one. Two, if the time difference is a lot, then you will have to accommodate, your daily life and the task that you have to submit maybe. And, the time here is like midnight or something like that. So take consideration into the time difference. And for the financial aid option, I think you're correct in terms of they have less options or opportunity for the online programs. But there are some. So if you want to take a look, go ahead. But I'm not, I haven't seen a lot of the opportunities for online programs, unfortunately. And the next question is, what are the tips? Okay, so the comments, aside from the time difference that I'm concerned about, because I took this class before and in US, and I come back for the vacation, and the time difference is just overwhelming, and the task is a lot of things to do. So I don't want anyone to experience that, because that's going to be tough, and especially if you pay a lot for the program itself. What I would suggest is you comparing the online versus the in-person class and plan for the 2021 if you are not in the rush to start the online program at all. All right, I hope that answers the question from Darin. And next question is from Muhammad, Muhammad Fitra in Zoom. So he is actually one of my advisees that I have met like 2 or 3 times in Zoom one-on-one session before. So hello, thank you for joining our event. And your question tonight is, can you discuss more about the limitation of F1 visa? I've heard that we cannot work for the part-time with that visa. So you can work part-time in campus. And outside of campus, that's a no and a violation to the F1 visa, student visa for F1 visa. So the answer is yes, but in campus. Outside of campus, it's illegal. Okay. And if you have more questions, we can schedule. You can ask me in the next session for our Zoom meeting, which is tomorrow. Okay, next one is from Herdin. Hi there, I would love to ask a question. Any recommendation and tips for experiences that we must gain before we aim and apply for a higher education that university is interested with? So I asked you in the chat box, and you're applying for master. Again, with CV and resume, it's a bit tricky because we definitely don't have the definite answer on, okay, let's put in this experience and that experience, and definitely you will get accepted. There's no definite formula for that, unfortunately. It's not that easy to go to US to study, and we love the spirit of people who fight for it, and that's why Fina and I are really advocating this US education thing, because it's quite different from other countries. So you're back to your question. You ask what kind of recommendation and tips. As I've mentioned before, if you can make it as well-rounded as possible. So it means not only you're good in your full-time job that pays you, but you also have like volunteer or community involvement, or maybe you write, maybe you went to conference, maybe you have this and that award that you don't think it's significant, but it's actually good to be put in your CV or resume. Okay, I hope that answers. If not, you can always find us again. Next one is from Nurulaili. Where is this question coming from? This is from Instagram. Okay, do you know when the official English test will be open, such as TOEFL or IELTS? So in Indonesia, I don't think they are like completely closed. I think last time I checked, they moved the test schedule to May. But I think if they are not possible to do the test in May, I think they're going to push it back again. And for those people who already pay, I think they're going to push it back and give them free rescheduling. And that's what I see and heard from the TOEFL and IELTS. Kindly go to ets.org and log into your account, and you can see the rescheduling options. And for IELTS, it's from the British Council Indonesia. So I assume they will already email you. You can check your email. If you don't have the email from them on that, you can go to their website and email them to ask this question. If you have difficulties to find them, go find me. I will give my email in the chat box, and it's ssalim@educationusa.org. Feel free to email me. Okay, next one, I'm going to pass it to Fina, and yeah, I hope we have enough time for everyone.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go real quick here, and I love the questions tonight. Like, really, I think we can actually do longer time next time. But okay, Kusnul Fitriani, a PhD question. Hi, Miss. I want to ask you for the PhD program in the US. Do I need a GRE certificate or just focus on research? It really depends on the university again. So I've seen some universities in the US where they will waive the GRE, meaning that they're not going to ask you for a GRE if you already in the workforce for more than, I don't know, like I say 5 or maybe like even 7 years. So if you've been in the workforce for that long, sometimes the university will not going to ask you for GRE. But I actually see a lot of PhD programs in the US that do not ask for a GRE, and I totally understand why, because when it comes to PhD, the university just they want to just do the research, right? So research proposal, focus on research is, your research proposal is very, very important. That's the one thing that you really need to have before you move on with the application process. So the short answer is really depends on the university. I've seen some universities that still ask you for a GRE, but then again, some universities might not ask for a GRE. I'm going to take this one questions first, Santika, and then I'm going to give it back to you. I'm going to try very, 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 very brief, but this is like a really good question from Muslimin Budiman Satrianto. Amazing the fact that you know the number. So basically, Muslimin is asking that in the US for 2018-2019, there are only about 9,000 Indonesian students who are currently studying in the US. And in my opinion, in your opinion, why Indonesia is still far behind compared to other developing countries such as Vietnam and Nepal? Exactly. Exactly. This is what I've been talking about almost like every time I give a presentation back in America. We need to really up the game. You know, some people might see that, oh, almost 9,000 Indonesians in the US, that's like a really, good number. Not at all. The fact that Indonesia is actually number 4, the most populous country in the world, just after, China, India, and the US, 9,000 is almost embarrassing number. So, and this is basically what EducationUSA is about. So we basically want to share with people that, look, we have a lot of Indonesians. We have about almost 9,000 Indonesian in the US. You can do that as well. So I want to say also another reason is because, which I'm trying to be very realistic, is that other people, a lot of us tend to pick other countries just for the sake of easier application process. So a lot of us, like when it comes to studying in the US, you have like this essay that Fina is always talk about, something that is really, really important. And then we have this GRE. I don't have the time to work on my GRE. And then oftentimes, if you want to study master's or PhD, the level of English, like the TOEFL and IELTS, is actually way higher than if you want to study elsewhere, even though it's in a country where they use English. Like, some countries in Europe, their English level is very, very, just like standard. And so a lot of people kind of like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to pick like other countries because it's easier. So I don't have any comment for that. I mean, all I know is, and this is kind of like try to answer the other questions from Viri asking why I love this job, is because I love that when people have their mindset to study in the US, it's all about a mental game. This is something that I mentioned last time. It's one of my best mentors mentioned. He said, when it comes to studying this, it's about mental game. As long as you really put your everything into, like, I'm going to, apply to US universities, then you're going to do everything for that. Regardless, you need to work on the GR, you need to work on essays. And that's definitely true. That's what I see from my advisees, that you're not just like, you don't want to go just the easy way, but you want, like, you're ready to be bothered by me saying that, nope, you need another revision for your essay, another session, another revision for your essay, and then maybe you need to retake some GRE's course. And I see that from my advisees. In fact, I've received, like a couple of advisees who shared with me some unfortunate news that they don't get accepted for fall 2020. But you know what they said in the email? They said, Fina, I want to set a session with you because I want to talk about my next plan. I want to try again. And that's what I actually see from people who want to study in the US. That's it. I'm going to stop there because I can't. I can go on and on for this. So yeah.
Exactly. So we both are natural advocate of US study because we went there for our undergrad and we love it a lot and it shapes us who we are today. So if you ask us why we choose US, we just have every reason, right? So I'm going to be very quick in answering Afandi's question in Zoom. Hi, I want to ask about Fulbright. Do we have to already have prospective campus before applying? So this is a very good question, and we kind of talk about scholarship before this event. You can find it in YouTube. If you cannot find it, email me, email us. Fulbright is a bit different from LPDP, where you don't have to choose the university before you apply for the scholarship. So for Fulbright, you focus on the Fulbright itself, the scholarship itself, and once you get it, the committee, I think the IIE, will help you, choose the university based on your profile, based on your level of English and everything like that. So they will guide you. So you don't have to worry. You just need to focus on the Fulbright application if you're applying for Fulbright. And you can read all of the FAQs. That is very helpful in aminef.or.id. Go ahead and read it there. More questions. After you read those, you have more questions, you can try to contact us or Aminef directly. Okay, and Fina mentioned the question from Sam and Fieri, which is answered in your chat in the chat box in Zoom. But Sam asked our contact information. Where can contact us and everything? So I'm going to repeat it again, just in case anybody missed it before. Fina and me mentioned it before. So our Zoom meeting ID is 276-124-396. And our email is jakarta.atamerica@educationusa.org. You can log into the Zoom anytime between 1 until 9 p.m., except when we are doing this kind of session every day. And if you're shy, you can email us first. All right, that's it from me. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I'll give it back to James.
Thank you so much, Santika and Fina. I think a lot of people enjoyed your informative session. It's always great having you guys with us. Early in the event, we asked the audience which university president had recently proposed a 5-year plan to suspend and gradually eliminate the role of SAT and ACT in admissions. The correct answer is the University of California President Jeanette Napolitano made the proposal to suspend and gradually eliminate the role of the SAT and ACT and in admissions. Shout out goes to Maya Trainer from Instagram for answering correctly. Thank you to everyone who has participated with us. Don't forget to tune in next time and catch a chance to get a shout out from us. Now you may be wondering, how can I develop an idea for an awesome place like this? Don't worry, all you need to do is visit our website at www.atamerica.or.id, select create a program and click collaborate with us. All event proposals coming to us will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. You can also subscribe to our newsletter for all our weekly event updates sent straight to your inbox. That wraps this episode. It's been fun, everyone, but we have to say goodbye for now. Follow our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at @ATAmerica. Follow our event updates, fun contents, and so much more. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining. Again, my name is James. See you next time on EdAmerica TV. Bye, everyone.